So, what is it that makes a brain resilient to stress? It's one of the biggest questions in mental health today. And on this explainer, we're going to break down the incredible new science that's finally giving us some answers. Okay, let's kick things off with a number 35%. A recent study found that's how many college freshmen are now dealing with a stress disorder like depression or anxiety. Just let that sink in. More than 1 in every 3 students. It's a huge jump since the pandemic. And for young women, that number is even higher, almost 45%. Yeah, this trend is so alarming that some of the top neuroscientists out there, Huda Akil and Eric Nestler, are basically sounding the alarm. They're saying we are in the middle of a second pandemic, a pandemic of stress. It's a call to action, really, for all of us to understand what's going on inside our own heads. So, to really get a handle on this crisis, we've got to explore the science of resilience itself. We'll start with the big questions scientists are asking. Then we'll get into a whole new way of thinking about what resilience even is, how they're figuring out the biology of it, and finally, what it all means for you and me. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so we've set the stage. The problem is clear. Stress is everywhere. And that brings us right to the huge mystery that scientists have been trying to crack for decades. You've seen this, right? I mean, you can have 2 people face the exact same challenge, a demanding job, a personal tragedy, and one person seems to manage, maybe even grow from it, while the other really struggles. Why? The answer isn't just, oh, some people are tougher. The real science is way more fascinating than that. And the answer, it turns out, lies in this massive shift in how scientists even define resilience. It's a move away from the old, simplistic ideas toward a new and, honestly, a revolutionary way of understanding it at a biological level. This slide really nails the difference. For so long, we pictured resilience as this passive shield, something you either had or you didn't. We now know that's just plain wrong. Resilience is an active process. It's your brain literally fighting back, rewiring and adapting on the fly to cope with stress. So how in the world did scientists discover this active defense system? I mean, to see what a resilient brain is actually doing, they needed a way to watch it in action. So they developed this incredibly clever model using mice. So scientists came up with this powerful experiment that mimics social stress. They put mice in a stressful social situation, and afterwards they can reliably identify 2 distinct groups: the susceptible mice, who get withdrawn and avoid other mice, and the resilient ones, who bounce right back and stay social. And this is brilliant because now they can look inside the brains of both groups and ask the million-dollar question, what's different? And this is where everything clicked. When they looked at the brains of those 2 groups, they found something that was just, wow. You'd assume the resilient brains would be the ones that were less affected, right? The ones that were unchanged, but it was the complete opposite. The resilient brains showed way more changes in their gene activity. They weren't just resisting damage, they were actively changing to overcome it. Okay, so where exactly are all these amazing adaptations happening? Let's take a quick tour of the key brain circuits that are working to build resilience. First stop, the brain's reward circuitry. Now, these are the super important pathways that control our motivation, our get up and go, and our ability to feel pleasure. So here's what's going on. In susceptible brains, stress basically hijacks these circuits, and that leads to symptoms like anhedonia. That's the inability to feel pleasure. But in resilient brains, they fight back to keep that reward system online. It's almost like they're turning up the volume on their own motivation signals, actively working to maintain that sense of drive and reward. All right, next up are the circuits that manage how we respond to fear and help us regulate our emotions. This involves brain regions you've probably heard of, like the amygdala, which is kind of the brain's threat detector. So in susceptible individuals, that amygdala can get stuck in the on position, making the world seem like a much scarier place. Resilient brains, on the other hand, are much better at regulating those threat signals, at keeping the amygdala in check. And get this. Research has even found specific circuits that are actively beefed up in resilient animals to help them do exactly that. Okay, let's zoom in one last level. We've seen the circuits, so now let's look at the actual molecules, the tiny little tools that the brain uses to build and maintain this resilient state. One of the most important tools in this whole toolkit are these proteins called KCNQ channels. The best way to think about them is as molecular brakes for your neurons. When stress is causing a neuron to fire like crazy, these channels literally step on the brakes, slowing things down and bringing back some balance. And this is where it gets incredibly exciting. This timeline shows a direct, powerful line from a basic science discovery all the way to a potential new treatment. So in 2007, scientists see that resilient mice have more active KC&Q channels. By 2016, a drug that boosts those same channels is found to promote resilience in other mice. And by 2021, that very same drug was shown to have antidepressant effects in humans. I mean, come on, that's a perfect example of how understanding these mechanisms can lead to brand new therapies.
So, what does all this complex neuroscience actually mean for us in the real world? What's the big payoff from understanding resilience at such a deep level? Well, for one thing, it shows that resilience isn't just a state of mind, it's a physical state of the brain. And that physical state depends on protecting the brain from the rest of the body, using this amazing structure called the blood-brain barrier. See, chronic stress can actually make the blood-brain barrier leaky, which lets all these inflammatory molecules from your body get into your brain and contribute to depression. But in resilient individuals, the brain's bouncer is stronger. Resilient mice show these unique adaptations that actively strengthen the barrier, keeping that inflammation out. And this opens up completely new ways to think about treatment, like maybe promoting vascular health could be a way to boost mental health. And this, right here, is the most hopeful and powerful takeaway from all of this research. Resilience is not some fixed character trait that you were born with. The science is now crystal clear. It's a verb, not a noun. It is an active biological process that our brains are constantly doing, and that means it's a state that can be supported, strengthened, and enhanced. This research is changing everything. It's opening up new frontiers, not just for treating disorders after they show up, but for actively promoting mental wellness and preventing illness in the first place. So, the big question for the next decade of research is right here on the screen. If resilience is a biological process our brains are actively building, what can we do to help them build it better? Finding the answers to that is going to transform how we approach mental health for everyone.